One evening, Frank was arranging some empties up at the Marthwaite zinc mine. The other engines had all finished their duties for the day, and Frank was looking forward to joining them in the shed. His driver climbed down from the cab and walked off for a smoke break, leaving Frank sitting alone. As Frank sat waiting, he thought he could hear the faint sound of an engine puffing.
That's strange. I didn't think we had any evening train scheduled.
All done, boy. We can be off now. I'm sure you're looking forward to a rest.
Quite so, yes. By the way, who's on night duty tonight?
Well, there's no one I'm aware of. There aren't any night trains scheduled.
Then, who was that I heard puffing just now?
Just now, you say? Odd. I haven't heard anything of the sort. Are you sure you heard an engine?
As sure as the sun setting in the evening.
Perhaps you're a bit more tired than you think. Come on, let's get you home.
Not a moment too soon.
Frank muttered as he pulled away, feeling a bit uneasy about the whole situation. It was nearly dark by the time Frank reached the junction. His driver got out to set the points. As he did, Frank thought he could hear the puffing again.
You alright, Frank? You look pale.
Huh? Oh, yeah, I'm alright. Let's just get moving again.
Just as the junction was leaving his line of sight, Frank suddenly caught a glimpse of a yellow engine turning off down the line to the mine.
Jock? What's he doing out this late? Jock, what were you doing up by the mine at Marthwaite?
Me? I haven't been up there all day. Why do you ask?
Because I saw an engine puffing down the track to the mine. It was dark, and I didn't get a good look at him, but he was definitely yellow.
Well, I've been here in the shed for a while. I'd finished up my last run a few hours ago. The small controller must have purchased a new engine.
That? Or you're seeing things, Frank.
I am not seeing things. I know what I saw.
No, you don't. But I might.
You know something about this engine.
Well, I know of an old legend.
Legend? Like fantasy?
Perhaps. But no one can say for sure. During the earliest days of the Mid-Sodor Railway, Duke, the first engine on the line, was the railway's only engine. They would sometimes borrow other engines from here or there, but it was becoming clear the railway needed a second engine of their own. The railway didn't have a lot of money at this point, so when the controller scored a favorable deal with a South American loco company, he took it at once. The engine that arrived was a large yellow tank engine. He didn't speak a word of English, so communicating with him was difficult, and no one was ever able to get his name. Despite this, he appeared to be a hard worker, and he did his work in a timely manner and was never late. To most, he appeared to be a more than suitable addition to the Mid-Sodor fleet. However, those who worked closest to him began to notice some strange behavior and realized that maybe all wasn't right with this engine. He'd frequently mutter in his language under his breath. Though no one could understand what he was saying, it appeared to be a chant of some sort. He was quiet about it, but some still noticed. Even stranger, the railway's migrant workers noticed the engine wasn't speaking in Spanish. It was some other unknown language. Workers from a wide range of nationalities attempted to identify it, but to no avail. But perhaps even stranger was his nightly behavior. It said that some nights, the engine would leave his shed for an unexplained reason, chanting in his odd tongue. No one knows where he went or what he did, just that he'd always be back by morning. Many people became increasingly nervous around the engine, and since no one could ask the engine where he went, rumors began to spread about the strange things he could be up to. Eventually, the manager had had enough, and made plans to secretly follow the engine. Every night for a few days, the manager and Duke's crew would hide in his cab, waiting for the engine to leave for wherever he went. Then, one night, the yellow engine began his odd chanting. The men readied themselves, and sure enough, the engine left his shed and puffed off into the mist. Duke followed a few minutes later, racing through the fog and attempting to catch up with the engine. That would be the last time anyone would ever see the yellow engine, for even after traveling up and down the entire line, Duke and the men were unable to find him. He'd seemingly vanished into the mist. A search party was called the following morning, and they searched for a few days, only to find no trace of the engine or where he'd gone. The only clue came from a signalman who claimed he'd seen the engine heading towards the mine at Marthwaite, but nobody could verify this. Sensing something off about the entire situation, the manager ceased looking for the engine and ordered a new one instead. This engine would come to be known as Stanley, who I'm sure you're all aware had his own set of issues, though none quite as bizarre as that old yellow engine. The manager, not wanting word to get out about the ordeal, completely erased any and all records of the engine existing. Photographs, incident reports, timetables, all disposed of. The engine had only been on the railway for just over a month in total, so it wasn't all that difficult to do. He instructed his staff never to speak of the yellow engine, and said that if anyone asked about him, he'd simply been sold off to another railway. Before long, everyone had forgotten about the legend, and it had successfully been made as though he'd never existed. Over the years, however, people have reported sightings of the mysterious engine, roaming up and down the rails on his journey to who knows where. Some have claimed it may be chanting in its odd language, but no one can say for sure, as those who get close enough to tell you are never seen again.
Well, that's quite the story, Bert. Though it sounds as though it's based more in folklore than reality.
Agreed. You probably just saw a yellow car or something, Frank.
So, where'd you hear this story, Bert?
Oh, I don't know. It was a long time ago. Probably from some tourists or something.
So it would appear you either saw a demon engine, or literally anything else. Your call, Frank.
Tough decision. Think I've got to go with the literally anything else, personally.
I mean, believe whatever you wish. It's just a story after all.
Good. I wish to not believe it, as I'm sure is true for the rest of you. I've had a long day. Can we please stop going on about spooky vanishing engines now?
That might just be the first intelligent statement you've made, Mike. Now let's all get some rest.
Stupid words.